Hello YouTube gang, it's me Joseph Berry and I'm back with another design direction. First of all, I'm just going to say thanks to everyone that helped me achieve a goal that I've been trying to get for some time now, and that was winning an award on AAW Awards. And in fact, it finished up with 3 awards, so I'm completely blown away. The Goonies site finished up with honourable mention, site of the day, and mobile excellence. So that's just been amazing. So again, thanks to all the community that went out and voted for that. And I was thinking, oh, I need to do something for you guys. So I know quite a few people have been asking me, how did you do that hero section? How did you recreate that zoom? And then as it scrolls down, how did you do that? So as a little gift to me to return back to you guys, I'm going to show you how to do that today. So let's get straight into it. This is going to be a fun one. Hope you enjoy it. Let's do it.
Right, so some of you may have seen, I've actually changed my t-shirt. Magic. So, right, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go into some of the process of how this is put together. So really this is just a case of using a sticky container, as well as looking at some different layers, and then using scroll interactions to do that. Once you kind of get your head around this process, it'd be pretty easy to do other interactions similar to this. So let's get straight into it. What we're going to do is we're going to drop our first div down on the page. If it lets me. Really don't understand why it's doing this. Okay, I'll drop it that way. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call this scroll container test. And what the scroll container is actually doing is determining how far we want to scroll. And this can depend on how many sections you want to scroll through. It can depend how fast or slow you want to scroll through that section. So it's a kind of basis of trial and error. So I've got kind of 2 sections at 100 viewpoint height. Then I don't want it to go through really quickly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go 100% in width, and then the height I'm going to do 260 viewpoint height. Now don't ask me why that is like that, and as I said to you just before, that is kind of determining how far we want to scroll. If I did it 200, it just moved through too quickly. So that's just something to bear in mind. And once that's done, we are good to drop in another div. What we want to do is we actually want to drop in another div inside of this, and we want to call this sticky container test. And what we want to do with this is we want to do 100% in width. We want to do 100 viewpoint height, because that is how high that viewpoint is that we want to be able to scroll the content through. Then what we need to do is we need to make sure that this is overflow hidden, and we also need to make sure that we are on sticky. Set this to 0, and that means as soon as it's set to 0, as soon as we start moving, that's when elements are going to be sticky inside of that. So that is the first part. And then what we need to do is we need to drop in another div inside, and what we're going to do is we're going to call this overlay test, and we're going to do 100% width, 100 viewpoint height. We're also going to do absolute, and then we're going to set the Z index to 3. And this is again just working out the layerings and positions of everything. So that's the overlay. And then what we also want to do is we want to give it a background color, and we probably just want to bring it to, I don't know, say 40% to start off with. Then what we want to do is we want to drop in another div, and what we want to do with this is we want to call this BG scroll test. And the only reason I'm calling it test is because I'm actually building this inside of the Webflow project, so I'm just giving them different classes and rebuilding this as we go through. So the BG scroll is the actual scroll of this image. So what we've got to understand here is we've got this top layer here, which is actually cut out as a PNG. Then underneath we have the image of the rocks. And again, that is activated as well by a scroll interaction. So it's just two layers basically sitting on each other. And we're going to animate this top layer, and we're also going to animate the back layer, which gives it a little bit more depth. So what we're going to do with this, and just as a little kind of point to this, now, because we've got a zoom on it, and then we've got a scroll, I had to play around with how I basically size this image up. So it's kind of important to remember that when you go into doing this, because obviously when we're zooming, we're going to make that image bigger. So we want to make sure that that image doesn't lose too much resolution when we're zooming. So it is a case of playing around with how large we make that. We've got to think about how far we're going to come out with it. But then also we've got to think about the height, because we've got that little bit of extra that we want to be able to scroll up with. So again, it was just about playing around with that and getting it right so it worked. Because if we just had it at the full 1920 by 1080, as soon as we started to scroll up, we'd see the bottom of it cut off. And that's why I had to, put in an overlay as well to kind of blend that transition in, so it doesn't, you don't see that. Because even when we started to scroll down a little bit further, if you remove that overlay, you can actually see the bottom of that image. So that's quite important. So with the background scroll, we've got the width 100%, height 150 viewpoint height. Strange, I know, again, but that was just to kind of work out the positioning of that image. Because if we did it at 100, what would happen is that the circle in the middle, like the space that we've got here, was really small. So by increasing the width, we're actually making that image bigger to be able to position, so it sits a lot better inside. And again, it's just this tweaking back and forth, getting it right, and playing around with these different measurements to be able to get it to sit right. And then what we want to do is we actually want to make sure that this is on absolute and the z-index is on 1. And then we also want to drop in that image. So if I go here, choose image, I'll go for all of the images that I've got inside of here. Now, as you can see, there is that image. Can't see it at all yet. Want to make sure it's on cover, center, no repeat. So that's that first image in. We can't see it. We can just about see it here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to drop in another div. And what we're going to do this is we're going to call this BG main test. And what we're going to do with this is we're just going to do a simple 100% width, 100 viewpoint height, absolute, of course, and then we want to set the z-index is fine for this one. It will go automatically to the bottom. And as you can see now, we've got starting to build up these layers, and we need to find that other image here, cover, center, no repeat. So now we have that layering. So we've got the back layer, we've got the PNG over the top, we've also got the overlay, which is above all of that as well. And that will help when you start to scroll through one section to the next section and how we get that to work. Again, we've just got that above. We've got that above the background. So once we've done that, we need to now create the two sections that sit inside. So you would have guessed it, we're going to drop in another div. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to call this hero parent test. And we're going to go 100% width, 100 viewpoint height. We're going to make sure it's on absolute. We're going to ping it to the top left. And we're also going to make sure that it is on center. And then what we can basically do is start to drop in our content inside of that. Now, just for the speed of this, I'm going to go back. I'm going to have a little bit of music, which is great. And I'll just stop that. We're going to go into here. We've got our hero parent. We've got the sub. So I'm going to copy that over to here. Go back in here. Let's open that. And the hero parent, drop that in. And I can't see that. So that is due to a Z index. So 2, I think put it on 3. If we put it on 4, it'll go above the overlay. But we want it just below the overlay because that's going to cover up some of the things later on down the line. Let's go back to here. Again, we're going to have some lovely music. I'm getting sick of that tune. I've heard it like 4 million times now. So yeah, let's copy the logo. Let's open these up again. Drop that in. So what we need to make sure we do now, because we've got them on the side, let's just make sure that we set that to vertical, and now we've got them the right way because we set that parent div on flex and we put it center, but at the moment it was on horizontal, so we need to change that to vertical so we can get them elements sitting right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drop in another div, and we're going to call this intro parent test. Oh, and we're going to do exactly the same. 100%, 100 viewpoint height, absolute to the top, probably put it on 3. So we're in that same position. And again, we want to make sure that we are on flex center. And again, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to stop that tune again. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to copy over these elements. Now I'm not going to do the draw line. I'm just going to focus on this hero section. And we're going to go in and we're going to drop our first bit of copy. As you can see, it's there, just underneath. And I'm going to go back into some more sound. I actually had a period of time where I just was sleeping and still hearing that tune in my head. Yeah, it was getting a bit much, but now it's done. It's all good. Right, so, and then the copy. And again, we just need to make sure that we set it to vertical and we've got that in. Now let's just have a little look here. Now it looks like we've got a lot of layers going on, which is all fine. And what we can do now is get into the animation part. So we've built that out really, really quickly, just about understanding how that works. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the scroll container, and I'm going to do a while scroll in view. I'm going to play animation. I'm going to call this zoom intro 1. And then the first bit that we're going to do is the BG scroll. So we're going to select the BG scroll. And again, with doing these scroll interactions, if I start here, so I do a scale, and the scale obviously to start off is at 1, and then when we get to here, it's going to be 1.5. So if we go and look at this now, it's fine actually. That's cool. Okay, so in some instances, depending on how long the page is, you might have to just move this along. So move the starting position to like 20, because sometimes it starts too early or it's already zoomed in. And that's, again, relative to how long the page is. Because we're only working in this one section, it seems to be fine. But when I was actually building it out, and I had obviously other sections below, when I did it bang on 0, that image was already zoomed in. So again, it's just about offsetting that starting point. But we keep it like that. Probably just bring this to like, let's do 20, let's do 30. And again, working out some rhythm inside of these scroll interactions. So 30% pixels, try and do everything to certain measurements. And again, it just keeps consistency and helps you really kind of fine tune that. And then when you start to go into the process of tweaking and moving around, you actually know, right, okay, I need to move that by 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever measurement you decide to use. And then it just helps you, because this is a pretty relatively simple scroll interaction. Something that I'm currently working on has got lots of different scroll interaction going on, and it gets really, really crazy inside of there. So it's a good tip to use. So obviously we've got the zoom. Again, that just feels a bit too sharp. So let's bring it up to 60. So that's 40. Let's just make sure it's on ease. So we've got that. We've got the zoom. So, see, is that me? 1.5. So if we start here, see, it's already zoomed in. So let me just bring this back. So maybe it might work better. So that's still in. Strange. Let's bring it up to. See how that was already zoomed in? And again, it's still already zoomed in. So let's 30%. See how I'm just tweaking this now, and it's starting to. There you go. Now it's in position a lot better. If we bring it back, this is exactly what I was just talking about, and I thought it was not going to work. See how that's already started to zoom out. We need to now offset this. And I know there is some offset settings inside of. If you go out of this, you've got this here. I think that is what you do. I just haven't sussed it out. I think for me, this is just an easier way to do it. So let's just go like that. Got the zoom, great. So that's the first bit. And then what we also want to do is we just want to remove the opacity of this overlay. And we'll put it here for the moment, but we're probably going to tweak it. So let's just have a look. And as we start to scroll, the opacity comes in, which is great. And then what we want to do is we also want to grab the background, and we're going to do exactly the same. So we're going to grab the background, we're going to do a scale, we're going to start it at 1. And then what I want to do is I want to slightly offset this a little bit. So the scale in the background is slightly different, so you really get this sense of depth. And again, this is about just playing around with the interactions, learning and trying different things. Don't be afraid to keep everything so rigid. Play around with them timings, offset things a little bit. It just gives it a little bit more of an organic vibe when you're moving through things. So let's go to scale. Let's do 1.2, 3, try 1.3. So it's, see how, look, you see how you just get that little offset on it? Just, so you still get a bit of movement. Maybe that's a little bit too far. So what I'll do is I'll bring it back 5. And let's, yeah, see that? It's just, you just get that really nice subtle movement in the back. Just so you get to that point, it just moves in a little bit further, which is great. And then what we want to do is we've got the hero and then we've got the intro. So what we're going to do with the intro is we basically want to move this. No, we want to hide it. So I'm just going to bring the opacity down, and I'm going to bring the opacity here. I'm actually going to keep it on 0 because I'm not looking to fade in yet with that. And again, we'll just make some tweaks, but I'm just trying to get through this as quickly as possible. Sorry about that. Almost choked on myself. So now we've set that intro parent. So now we've got scroll, 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 and then we need to start doing a fade on this other parent. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go intro parent, and then I'm going to go to say let's go to 90. I'll bring this up. Oh, why did I do a move? Let's do that again. Opacity. We bring this up to 90. Right. And now we've got that in. Now the reason why I set the opacity on 80 to 0 is that what we're saying is we're holding, and then when we get to 80%, then we start. Because if we did it straight from 0 to 90%, that would be animating in straight away, and we don't want that to happen. What we want to do is we want to delay that interaction, and the way that we're doing it is we're just kind of setting a keyframe similar to After Effects. What we're saying is this animation is going to happen, and then it's going to hold all the way up to here, and then when it gets to here, that's when we start the next part of the animation. And that's again another little good logic to kind of get into and think about if you want to pause things and then relay things over. So now we've got that. We moved into that 100%. And what we need to do is we basically need to do the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the opacity. It's on 100. And then we're going to, again, we're going to just set it here. We're going to keep it 100. And then basically when we get to here, we're going to do a transition. So let's just check that out. So I start to scroll, boom. See how it changes. It holds, then changes. What I'm thinking is this is just a little bit too snap. Maybe I want it a little bit more progressive. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my 5. So I'm going to go back to my 95. And go down, fade out. Still feels a little bit snappy because we have got that there. So what I might do with this one is I'm just going to tweak this along and give that a 10. So that now got a 10% gap, and that should hopefully, yeah, that feels a lot nicer now. So we've got that. And then what I've just noticed, and that was my own fault, what I want to make sure is that intro parent is actually over the top of that. So when we go in, boom, now we've got it because that's what we want. And then all I did with this, if we go back to the scroll interaction, we grab here. So we're looking at, so we've got the intro parent, and then if we go into the intro parents, and that's where our change starts, and that is where that change ends. And if I grab that, I go to move. I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Move that down, and then I'm going to go move. I'm going to go 0, and I'm just going to select all of this. I'm going to put it on ease, and I'm going to go down, down, boom. There we go. Look, as we transition in. So we've got a few things that I would probably like to tweak, and that would probably be that overlay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to move this overlay along a little bit. So let's try it from 60. So we go down, down, then the overlay starts, then that goes. And that does feel a little bit quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this to 100. They're all on ease. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go back to smoothing, and I'm just going to bring the smoothing up. And let's just, yeah, that's a lot nicer. Now I think really that overlay didn't start until later on. So maybe we bring the out one, bring that to 85, and then we just bring this to 80 or 70. Let's try 70. Let's just see what that looks like. And we go down, then it starts to fade, then it goes out. And I still feel like that is a little bit long in terms of not long, short. The way that snaps. So I'm going to bring that back to 70. Let's just see. Yeah, see how that's a lot nicer now. It just fades a lot nicer, and then you've got that movement, which is great. And so once we've got that animation done now, we need to think about that, just that last little bit. So as we start to scroll, it starts to move up. So what we need to do is we need to select our BG scroll. Let's have a look. So from the scroll, what we want to do here is we want to do a move, and we want to go 0 pixels, and then we just want to move this up. So we go 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 120 pixels. You can just select all of these bits, make sure that they're on ease. So we scroll in, start to come up. So on my example, it actually didn't start that soon. So what we could probably do is, we've got this move. Let's make sure that this comes down. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop all of these back 10. So I'm going to go back 10 on that one. I'm going to go back 10 on this one. Go back 10 on that one. And then what I can do is go back 10 on this one. And let's just move, change, and then it starts to scroll up. You know, there's a lot more little tweaking that you could do inside of this. Again, you're seeing how I'm going backwards and forwards between these different percents, just moving and tweaking, making sure that I get it right so it looks good. And guys, that is how simple it actually is to create something like that. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next tutorial.